Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 591 to 592 for the 7th to the 8th of October of the forgotten war of Ukraine. So everybody have forgotten about Ukraine because everybody's focus is now in the Middle East, in Palestine and Israel. So who cares about Ukraine? You know, the media have totally forgotten about Ukraine. Ukraine war ever existed. So let's start off with the Russian missile strike, the Mihorod air base over in the Potova region. This air base got missile strike according to pro-Russian source Riva, and they say that the Sukhoi 27 got hit, or a parking of the Sukhoi 27 got hit over this area here. So I haven't seen the report from the Russian Defense Ministry about this. So let's see how this goes. And move over at the southern front, in the Kherson region, there is geolocation of Ukrainian forces just off Dachi. So military summary geolocated them over here. Oops, that is so thin. Over here. So which means that the previous zone of control have expanded. The Ukrainian forces have actually grown, over in Dachi region. Moving on away from the southern front, there's nothing else over here. Over into the Zaporizhia front. So this is the Zaporizhia front, and over at the Orikhiv sector. This is the Orikhiv sector. There's a Ukrainian Sukhoi 25 that got shot down over Preobrazhenka. So this is just north of Orikhiv. The Ukrainian forces are also continuing their attack, but the Russians are also doing their counter-offensive. So the Ukrainians are attacking in this fashion against Vovobe, north of Kopani, towards Novoprokopivka, whereas the Russians are counter-attacking over in the northeastern part of Kopani towards Uzbenivka, towards Robotine, and also at Vobove, as well as towards Mala Tomashka. So this is the action over the past 48 hours. So over at the Kopani, we have a geolocation of Ukrainian forces over at this junction of tree lines by Crimea Caprice, which actually shows advance. The Ukrainians are slowly advancing towards Kopani. As I mentioned in the previous SITREP, this is a bit late, but no, better late than never, which the Ukrainians have to create a bigger buffer zone to protect Robotine. So the fighting towards Kopani is reported by Deep State UA and by Ryba. Both pro-Ukrainian and pro-Russian source both mentioned about this offensive on the 8th of October. Oh, I just want to adjust myself. And oh no. Yeah. Forget it. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so and then there is the Russians attacking towards Novodanilivka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, and so this is on the 8th of October, and this is also the first time there is some kind of acknowledgement of this the fighting in the direction or in the area or zone of Kopani. Anyway, we haven't seen this for a long time. So anyway, moving on, there is fighting reported near Uzbenivka. Uzbenivka is this area over here. So it's not very clear the Russians actually attack from this direction or this direction. So there is some fighting around this region. My guess is actually north of Robotine. So on the 7th of October, there is geolocation of Ukrainian forces over at this tree line, but it does not really change much of didn't really change our mapping over here. It's still accurate in terms of our mapping. And over in Robotine, south of Robotine, there is some certain geolocation. Ukrainian forces is geolocated here and here, and this second one is particularly important because that actually changed our front line. That was previously there was this possibility of the Russians pushing up. There was some geolocation done there. This time around, it shows that the Ukrainians have actually advanced south, and the front line has actually go to the very edge of Novoprokopivka, and this is actually confirmed by the geolocation of Russian forces within the village of Novoprokopivka. They are sweeping the village of any Ukrainian forces. So this actually clear cuts where the front line is actually is. So that's actually a very good. And so the attack towards Robotine or in the north of Novo Prokopivka was reported from the 7th to the 8th. Russian Defense Ministry mentioned about it, and then the next day, Ukrainian Defense Ministry acknowledged that, and Russian Defense Ministry also corroborated the information from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So both defense ministries confirmed that there is major fighting in this area here. There is geolocation of the front line by Crimea Caprice over just west of this entrenchment that is mostly controlled by the Ukrainians, and the Russians were attacking in this direction using the armored. So they are trying to recapture this stronghold over here, which actually shows that the Ukrainians actually still do not have this buffer zone that they really need to protect Robotine. So this is, as I mentioned, this is actually a vulnerability on the Ukrainian side. And over in terms of the fighting south of Robotine, Ryba reported that the Ukrainian forces, the 82nd Airborne and the 65th Mechanized Brigade, tried to break through towards Novo Prokopivka, but did not work out. They got met by the 12th Tank Battalion, and so the Russians are holding a very good line over here, and they are actually actively fighting back any Ukrainian offensive in this area here. So further geolocation in the tree line by Crimea Caprice that shows that Ukrainians continue to have positions on northeast of Novo Prokopivka. And so that's it for the situation over at Novo Prokopivka. And I think this entire report from Myroshnikov is most likely inaccurate, and because we didn't really see any corroboration of any Ukrainian forces actually entering into Novo Prokopivka itself. So as such, I'm downgrading Myroshnikov further. So now I would not religiously follow his stuff because such information, you see the way how he wrote, in the fighting in the central part of the village, and a certain part was already controlled by Ukrainian soldiers, and then it's to the point where they can even start to dream about liberation of the settlement. I think this is a bit overkill. This is on the 3rd of October, and so far we don't really see such corroboration. Maybe the Ukrainian forces got pushed up very fast, but ultimately this creates doubt in my view of the information. So I will still read his information, but no, I don't feel the obligation to map his information anymore. So I will map if it's relevant. It's a bit like the War Gonzo situation. War Gonzo's information tends to be copying, like a big part copies from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, which makes his report entirely pointless to map. So because everything is late by one day. So at Verbove, most of the there was fighting reported on the 8th of October. Russian Defense Ministry reported that they were attacking the Ukrainian positions northwest of Verbove, whereas Ukraine is reportedly attacking Verbove, with the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, Deep State UA, reporting the attack on the 8th, and then the Russian Defense Ministry reporting that there was some sabotage and reconnaissance group near the village of Verbove that was suppressed. So the Ukrainian forces continue to attack while the Russians are also conducting their own attack in the Verbove region. So this is Verbove, in case you cannot see. And there is interesting geolocation along the road by Dnipro Osin, a pro-Ukrainian source reporting some Russian units that were destroyed by kamikaze drones. But the fact that it was geolocated at this position shows that there might be some possibility that the Russians have established partial control over the roads, and they tried to drive through and of course got destroyed by Ukrainian forces, because no, you don't drive through a gray zone in this way. So that's possibility. Further up north, there was the report of fighting towards Mala Tomashka, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. In the 7th of October, they mentioned that they were attacking Ukrainian forces near Mala Tomashka, units of the Vostok group of forces. No Vostok. Zaporizhia direction group of forces, but supported by Air Force. Yeah, so anyway, there is some attack in this direction. That's about it, but it's not some kind of a major offensive, so do take it with a pinch of salt. Moving on over at the Huaipole sector, So this is Huyai-Pole. At the Huyai-Pole sector, this is the sector. The Russian forces continue their some offensive operation north of Mavropil. So in the south of Chevolny, there is fighting reported in this area here. Deep State UA reported some large-scale attack by the Russians in the area of Mavropil. What he defined by large, I have no idea. So because when you go to McDonald's, medium fries and large fries actually don't have much difference, but you're paying a lot more. So that is a major problem. Deep State UA then on the 8th. So this is actually reported on the why is it? Let me see. This is on the 8th. So what happened is that, okay, I forgot to put in the date. So yeah, so on the 8th, whoops, I'm so sorry. Okay, then on the 8th, they also on the same day they reported about the partial success by the Russians north of Mavropil. So the attack is in this entire area. So let's see how this goes. I'm not sure where the Russians are heading in this direction. Tentatively, we move on. I feel that this is just a diversionary attempt. We move into the Velika Novosilka sector. At the Velika Novosilka sector, there is fighting over in the Prione region. This is a continuation of the fighting that has been going on for quite some time. And there's no fighting reported on the 7th. Only on the 8th, the Russian Defense Ministry reported that they repelled Ukrainian attacks over at Prione. And then Russian Defense Ministry also mentioned that they attacked Ukrainian recon forces at Prione. In the north of Prione, Russian Defense Ministry also reported that the Ukrainians were attacking in the north. So basically, the Ukrainians are desperately pushing Prione, if you believe the Russian Defense Ministry. So that's actually very interesting. Like I said, winter is coming. They are trying to establish the better defensive line, and whatever line this is at this moment is actually not very, very good. So over at the west of Staromayorsky, the Russian Defense Ministry Vostok Group of Forces reported that there is a Ukrainian attack west of Staromayorsky, and there is also fighting being reported near Staromayorsky. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, in the same report, they also mentioned Uruzhaine over here. The Russian Defense Ministry's Vostok Group of Forces also mentioned about Ukrainians attacking. The Russians attacking some Ukrainian forces over at Staromayorsky, and the Ukrainians also were geolocated at the southern part of Uruzhaine as well as the northern part of Uruzhaine. So this actually confirms the Ukrainians still have a firm control over Uruzhaine, and this pretty much, I feel that the situation around Staromayorsky and Uruzhaine is pretty much just skirmishes. Over at the Donetsk front, this is the Donetsk front. At the Donetsk front, sorry, my family asked me to do something. So anyway, this is the Donetsk front. At the Donetsk front, there is some fighting flare up again around the Novodonetsky region. The Russians mainly is the one that is on the offensive. Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported on the 7th of October, the Russians were attacking Zolotan Neva. Interesting was that one of the previous in their evening report, they say east of Zolotan Neva. It's a weird place because the front line is not there. I'm not sure how the Russians are attacking on the eastern part of Zolotan Neva. So not sure if there's something that I missed that shows the Russians to be there, or maybe it's just a typo error. And then on the 8th of October, the Russian Defense Ministry Vostok Group of Forces said that repelled attacks at Novodonetsky. So the Ukrainians might be attacking Novodonetsky somehow, and the Russians actually also counterattacked, it seems. In the Novodonetsky region, they attack infantry groups near Novodonetsky. So pretty much a weird situation. There is no indication from the pro-Russian side or the Russian side talking about any push towards Zolotan Neva. So this is actually very weird. about this Ukrainian Defense Ministry's assertion about the fighting at Zolotan Neva. We will continue to monitor and see how this goes. Over in the Voleda region, the Russians were reportedly attacking towards Vodian. Usually, when I see the word Vodian, I will actually put it in the Adiyevka front, the Vodian in the Adiyevka front. But this one, right, this one is actually interesting because they actually mentioned Shatatsky axis. So this area here is the Shatatsky axis. Shatatsky is actually here. So this referring to the Donetsk front, according to our terminology. So which means that the Russians are actually attacking in this direction towards Vodian around here. So geolocation of Ukrainian forces by military summary shows that there is the Russians strike this area here with air bombs, and the Ukrainians actually on the 8th of October launched a massive attack against Mykolaiv. The Russian Defense Ministry and Rybar both mentioned about this attack by combined assault groups of the Ukrainian armed forces against Mykolaiv, and they launched this attack, but it was repelled. So yeah, so we have geolocation of Ukrainian forces by Crimea Caprice under attack of artillery over here. This helped us to move the front line a bit, and it does feels like the Ukrainian mapping seems to be more accurate. But we do not have a lot of Russian mappings nowadays. So yeah, so that is the main issue now. Over at the Marinka Novo-Mikhailivka region, the Russians launched a major attack, seemingly from the from the east, southeast, and the south part of Novo-Mikhailivka. This is reported by Rybar on the 8th of October. They mentioned about this attack, capturing some high grounds within this region, some small hills that allows the Russians, that was previously occupied by the Ukrainians, and they were attacking. There is geolocation of Ukrainian forces over at this area here that was shot by the Russian artillery. And otherwise, the attack is also kind of reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry from the 7th to the 8th of October. There is geolocation of Ukrainian forces also over here in the northeastern part of Novo-Mikhailivka, geolocated by Crimea Caprice. So this this attacks is very interesting. I wonder if the Russians are going to really capture Novo-Mikhailivka. This is I'm not too sure. So over in the Marinka region, of course, the usual, the 7th to the 8th of October, Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported the Russians attacking the Marinka, and there is also fighting being reported at Krasnohorivka on the 7th of October. So that's all from the Donetsk front. Pretty much, yeah, usual things. Over in the Adiyevka front, we have fighting reported at Nevelsky. The Ukrainians reportedly attacked, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, near Nevelsky. The Russians were attacking at Pervomaisky on the 7th of October. There is reports of fighting at Vodian, as I mentioned, the other Vodian over here. This is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. And then this is on the 9th. This is in today's report. Might be referring to the actions yesterday. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry continued to report about fighting at the Adiyevka region from the 7th to the 8th without specifying in which direction. And then over in the north of the Adiyevka front, there is only reports by Deep State UA on the 8th of October saying that the Russians have some partial success west of Krasnohorivka. So the Russians are attacking in this direction, and there's some geolocation of Russian forces on the 7th of October by Crimea Caprice that shows that the Russians have retaken this tree line over here along the railway lines. So that's about it from the Adiyevka front. Getting a bit quiet, but still some actions around this area. It could be the weekend issue because of the weekend. Over at the Bakhmut front, Ukrainians are continuing their offensive, but it looks like they are stuck over at Klishchiivka, Andriivka, and Kudyumivka. So, but there is no change in terms of the front line. It shows that the Ukrainians are getting bogged down by the extended logistic or supply line. Over in the Kudyumivka, fighting is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry from the 8th to the 9th of October, which is 2 days report. At Andriivka, that the offensive is actually reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry themselves, and it was corroborated on the 8th of October by the Russian Defense Ministry. So from the 7th to the 8th, the fighting continues. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry also reported that the Russians are actively counterattacking in the area of Andriivka. So while the Ukrainians are conducting their offensive operation out of Andriivka, the Russians are constantly counterattacking and pushing them back. So this entire region here is actually a very, very difficult for the Ukrainians. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces within Klishchiivka as well as north of Klishchiivka doesn't really change much in terms of the front line, except in the north we do push back the Russian front line a little bit due to this latest geolocation by Creamy Caprice. I believe this Creamy Caprice, yeah. And over in the at Klishchiivka, there is offensive operation being reported on the 8th, and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry also mentioned about the Russians counterattacking in the Klishchiivka region. So pretty much the usual. In the northern part of the Bakhmut front, this is the northern part of the Bakhmut front. The cat is eating Bodanivka on the 8th of October, and that's pretty much it. We don't really have much other information. And over at the Sivers front, this Sivers. At the Sivers front, we have geolocation of Ukrainian forces along the railway line by Creamy Caprice over this place west of Berestove. So that's about it. We don't really have any offensive operation being reported in this region here. In the Crimea front, this is Crimea. The Crimea front, there is information from Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, reporting accumulation of Russian forces near Crimea, which might suggest a new offensive by the Russian side. Otherwise, the Ukrainians are the one doing most of the offensive operations at Torske. Russian Defense Ministry reported 8 and the 9. At Dibrova from the 8th to the 9th as well by the Russian Defense Ministry, as well as Serebransky Forestry, also by the Russian Defense Ministry, by this 8th to the 9th by Center Group of Forces. There's a geolocation of Ukrainian forces over at this junction, this road junction within the Serebransky Forestry, which over here, which is previously captured by the Russian side, which means the Ukrainians are actually making progress within the Serebransky Forestry, pushing the Russians backwards within the forest region. So, but the Russian Defense Ministry Center Group of Forces on the 8th of October also mentioned that they actually did some assault against the Ukrainian forces. So, pretty much very skirmishy thing over at the Crimea front. Over at the Makiivka region, the fighting over here is now acknowledged by the Russian Defense Ministry as well. Ukrainian Defense Ministry and Deep State UA reported about the Russian offensive over at Makiivka, and on the 8th of October, it was acknowledged by the Russian Defense Ministry that they are actually conducting this operation. So, which means the Russian operation over at Makiivka is getting more and more serious, to the point where the Russian Defense Ministry will actually talk about it. Geolocation of Russian forces over at this eastern direction of Makiivka by Dnipro Osin also shows that at least the Russians are at this area here. The Russians are definitely putting a lot of pressure on the Ukrainians. And as such, the Ukrainians actually launched a counteroffensive over at Makiivka. On the 9th of October, the Russian Defense Ministry reported that they repelled an attack by the Ukrainians over in the Makiivka region. So that's about it in the Makiivka area. There is also a geolocation of Ukrainian forces just west of Kamazanivka by Creamy Caprice, which shows that the Ukrainians actually have managed to took over this entire forest here on the western part of Kamazanivka. So this is actually very interesting that the Russians are losing ground in this area here south of Novoyehorivka. And then we will move on. We are now in the Sviatove front already. In the Sviatove front, there is also fighting being reported at Novoselivsky. The Russian Defense Ministry on the 8th of October mentioned that they conducted some attack in this area here. And and then we move on to, into the Kupiansk front. So this is Kupiansk, and this is the Kupiansk front. At the Kupiansk front, the Russians seems to be conducting some big offensive in this area here. Sinkivka, Olyansky, and Ivanivska is the one that is actually being attacked, with the Ukrainian forces counter-attacking at Sinkivka and Olyansky. Over at the Ivanivska, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported the attack on the 7th to the 8th of October, whereas at Olyansky, the attack is being reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. The Russian Defense Ministry also mentioned about the Ukrainians counter-attacking over at Olyansky, so that's actually interesting. Over at Sinkivka, the Russians offensive is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, but on the 7th, on the 8th, and Sinkivka, and then the Russian Defense Ministry reported that the Ukrainians counterattack on the 9th of October. So the Ukrainians are definitely reacting to the Russians' actions in this area here, and thus they conducted a counteroffensive in the two sectors that the Russians are attacking. So we shall continue to see how this goes. And yeah, so that's about it for the summary for the day of 591 to the 592 for the 7th to the 8th of October. So thank you for watching. I will do a conclusion in a separate video for the public, and this one is going to be only for members or DPA officers, sergeants, and generals only. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.